today's Tech Tip Tuesday, we're going to talk about bank rules in Xero. Bank rules can be really helpful if you have to code the same transactions over and over again to the same account, and it can also be helpful if you have other people helping you with the coding and you want to make sure that they code the transaction to the right place. So to set up a bank rule, we go into our bank account and we find a transaction that we see happens consistently and we would always record it to the same place. So let's take as an example Cooper Street Bakery. To set up the bank rule, we go up to Options and we click on Create Bank Rule. What that does is it brings in the details of this particular transaction and helps us to establish the bank rule. What we look at is what are the things that are going to make our transaction relatively unique so that we'll know that when it sees that, this is where it should be coded to. So as you can see, there's two different lines that have come in on this transaction. The first is the payee, which is Cooper Street Bakery, and clearly that's going to be a good hint that this is what is going to have to be coded. And then the second line is the description, which is EFT. Now, EFT could be on many different transactions and is not unique to Cooper Street Bakery. So my suggestion is we just delete that out of our rule. We look at Cooper Street Bakery and we have a choice of whether it equals that, it contains it, starts with, or is blank. Now, I probably would not really use the is blank. I don't really know what that would be used for, but there's obviously some situations where that might be relevant. Usually I use equals or contains. Contains is really good for transactions that may have different numbers attached to it. So for example, if you were to go to Caltex service station, you might go to Caltex at different locations. Caltex is the keyword that's going to indicate to you that it's got something to do with fuel. The fact that it might be in Castle Hill or in Parramatta is kind of irrelevant. So in that circumstance, we would use the word contains, the option to contains, and the word would be Caltex that's relevant, and we would delete the other information out of it. I think we're okay to use equals in this circumstance. We set up the contact, or we can create an existing contact. We're going to set up Cooper Street Bakery because that hasn't been set up before. And then we have an option to allocate on a fixed amount. So there might be some circumstances where you need to break a transaction up. An example of this would be if there's a loan repayment for a car or something like that. Sometimes you'll find that part of the loan is actually a bank fee. So in that case, you might want to allocate the first $6.50 to bank fees and the rest of the money to the loan account that's being repaid. We can come here and we can put a description in here if we want. We might not want to do that. We can put the account. Clearly, this is something that we're wanting to know. Where is that going to be coded to? So we want to code this to entertainment. We can change the tax rate if we don't think that's the correct one. The reference, will this be set up by you during the bank rec, or will it be to set up from one of these things? I'm going to choose here to set it up from the payee. And what bank account do we want this to be from? So we can choose to have it from all the different bank accounts or just one specific bank account. And finally, we give the rule a title, and the title will automatically default from what Xero thinks it should be, but feel free to change that. So we hit save. What you'll find now is if you come into the bank reconciliation, that the rule has been set up and is applied to all of the Cooper Street Bakery transactions. We've got two here. From here, if we want, we can go in and edit the rule. We can choose not to apply the rule, or we can view the details. But if you're happy that the rule seems to be fine, you simply hit OK, and it will certainly save you time when you're doing your bank rec into the future. If you do happen to find that the rule is not appropriate and you do want to change it, you can also access it from up here in accounting, bank accounts, and bank rules. And when you're here, you'll be able to search. You can actually search now. This is a new feature that's just been added. You can find the rule, and if you want to, you can edit it. So if you found that it was doing the wrong thing, this is the way to edit or delete the rule. You can also, while you're in there, you can also do a rule on transferring money or on receiving money. So there's different rules that you can do depending on what the transaction is. Hopefully that was helped you to understand bank rules. They're pretty easy to use and they're certainly helpful, and they certainly make your life easier when you're reconciling a bank account.